Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Open Dialogue. We're back with new topics and new guests. As you know, we're discussing social issues which will help improve our environment and in our households, discussing topics that we can actually use practically in our homes and with each other. I have with me today Syed Razavi, always with us. Assalamu alaikum, Syed.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
And our guest today is brother Mahmood Mawjee. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you so much for joining me. Can you just quickly introduce yourself for the people that don't know you very well?
Okay, salam. So my name is Mahmood Mawjee. I was a dental surgeon, but now I'm a speaker and a business coach.
Okay, so regarding that, being a speaker, doing coaching like myself, we're going to be talking today about the topic of faith and personal development. A lot of us think that if we are just, brought up understanding our religion, that gives us our entire identity, and to a certain extent that is true. However, as we go through life, we realize that we have to build ourselves with our identity through the different stages of life, where we have to create ourselves, we have to also try and have more self-awareness, we have to also use our full potential, and at the end of the day, it is difficult. So with today's psychology, we can improve our self-awareness through self-development. So what does that actually mean to you if we're talking about self-development? So if there's any area that really comes up all the time that individuals come to you with self-development, what are the main areas?
Happiness.
Happiness.
Everyone wants to be happy, right? Mm-hmm. But not many people get there. What is the road to happiness? And when you look at religion, like we're told to be a better person each and every day, right? Go to sleep. The Prophet said, be a better person each and every day. What does that mean? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean just, pray better, fast better, but I think what it actually does mean is become a better person each day. And the way you become better each day is by developing yourself, hence the term self-development.
Right, but when you say develop yourself now, there's so many different areas of self-development. Like, how would you go through a client in order to do that?
Well, I think it's different when you're going through a client, but the main thing is what areas of self-development. I think one of the biggest areas of self-development is actually self-awareness, which you mentioned before. Mm-hmm. Actually, to be able to understand why you do, what you're good at, what you're bad at, concentrate on what you're good at, leave what you're bad at. But I think from an early age, we're not taught that. We're taught to follow some norms, do things which fit into a box.
Absolutely.
And so what I've learned is true happiness comes from actually finding yourself. Mm-hmm. But most people are on that journey to actually find themselves. And that's the journey which really, really unlocks you.
And I also find that people normally turn to self-development or trying to find themselves or, look within is when they're actually faced with a challenge.
See, because you're always going to grow on your down days, right? You're never going to grow on your up days.
Yeah.
So on those days when things are tough, that's when we normally turn to Allah, right? That's when we normally have those conversations, please help me. On the good days, you never really pray like as well as you could. It's normally on the bad days. But as I said, our whole religion is based around personal development. Our whole religion is about becoming, what is the bottom line of our religion? It's not to be able to pray the best or fast the best, it's to be the best person. To be the best person in the room, the best person you can. And that is all about being better every single day. Finding out what makes you tick, what makes you feel alive, and then using that to actually, a lot of people ask, what is the definition of happiness?
Yes.
And for me, happiness is, to be able to create an impactful life for yourself, where you can then use it to service other people, to be able to help them to create an impactful life. But to be able to have an impactful life yourself, you've got to go on that journey to find yourself. It's like, when you sit on the plane, I've put this on YouTube so many times, where when...
I haven't heard it, so go with it.
Well, when you sit on the plane, the first thing they say is if air pressure is going to go down, the oxygen masks are going to come down. And what do they say? They say, put it on your kids first, right? They don't. They say, put it on you first, right? Yes. Why? Because if you don't have it on yourself, there is no way which impactful you can give it to someone else. It's the same with everything else. If you're not happy, how can you give happiness to the person next to you? If you don't love yourself, how can you love the person? How can you love your spouse? If you're not happy, how do you give that out? So for me, the most important thing is to be able to find those things within yourself. And for me, the journey of coaching and all of that is about, someone can always see something in you which you can't see yourself, right?
Exactly. That's my next point.
But
a lot of us want the self-awareness, want this happiness, and how do you get that? And a lot of people are not aware of coaching. and they think that you have to be maybe broken or fixing, but no, it's for everyday people with everyday challenges, right?
Yeah, you know, when we were at school, we had teachers. When we were at uni, we had professors. Why should things change now? You come out in the business world and they say, you know, go build a business. 9 out of 10 fail within the first 3 years. Why? You know, you can't go and do something and look at marriages, for example, right? So I talk a lot about relationships, like, you know, why, like, you know, in our world, after about year 7, 8, 9, things start going rocky, right? Because you start getting bored of each other. My point is that what about if you looked at someone who has been married 20, 30 years and they've got a rock solid relationship? What if you can help them? What if you can get them to mentor you? You don't have to go through all the troubles that they've been through, but they can teach you that. You know, for people who have more than one kid, you know, you try everything else out on your first kid, right? Everything gets tried on the first kid, and then you learn from your. But what if you could actually go to someone who's raised up great kids and go, you know, can you teach me what you've done? You don't have to go through all of that. So my journey to be able to, so I say to anyone, I want to get you, you know, 10 years of growth in 6 months. Because that's what it's all about, right? Learn from what I've gone through, learn from my mistakes, learn from what I've put in, let me give it to you. And that's what this is all about. So, you know, coaching, mentoring, it's not about that. It's just about teaching. It's just about having someone next to you. Because someone can always see something in you which you can't see in yourself. Okay?
Syed, do you think there's a bit of self-development in religion that we are actually lacking because we're not actually talking about it as much? We're just talking about the rituals, we're just talking about certain rules that we are allowed and not allowed, but we're not talking about the mind and the body and how we can actually self-develop with today's psychology. Do you think that needs a little bit of improvement?
Well, from Islamic point of view, we have to look at human being as a combination of a metaphysical and physical being. And if you do not take care of the metaphysical side, your physical side would not be perfect.
Yes.
So you have to equally pay attention to both sides of your creation. And metaphysical side needs psychological, emotional, maybe ideological kind of development and support and feeding. And the physical side, of course, needs physical kind of health and looking after. So both of them go side by side, definitely. Without, you cannot ignore. So if Muslim scholars want to improve the teaching, they have to take care of the both sides and encourage. And of course, I'm not telling that a Muslim scholar to become a psychologist and medical doctor as well. And I'm also not telling that a medical doctor to become a psychologist. I mean, each have different fields. So they can work together. They can help each other together. And there are narrations supporting for that the sciences are two types. One of the sciences which teaches you of yourself, another science is to know God and metaphysical side of our creation.
No, that's very, very true. I think what we're lacking in the community, though, when they just get, you know, brought up in this world, but with parents, a lot of us are just concentrating on the secular education and then the Islamic education, but the Islamic education does, like the Syed mentioned, you know, talk about this, you know, the psychological side, but a lot of us always refer to maybe science and religion, not really psychology and religion. But now with all the everyday issues, because I get, you know, calls left, right, and center with regards to relationship issues or even people, you know, with their work, and majority even relationships with their, not just necessarily the spouse, but with their children, you know, with just generally their friend zone, whatever it may be. And like you said, it's all about trying to be a better person. And everyone else is looking at the other person instead of themselves in order to improve. And you cannot create change unless you create that change within yourself first. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, when you change, the things around you will change. But I always do see that, you know, that's like everyone has got maybe a quality which you want. So my point is that what if we looked at everyone, we picked out the good, we left the bad, and that's what we said we'd want. You know, I've got this big thing that, you know, wherever you want to be, we've all got goals, dreams, and ambitions, right? But what are you really here for? right? You know, what did Allah put you on this earth for? And I don't believe that we're put here just to, you know, go to uni, raise a family, earn some money, then to die. There's a bigger purpose. And I believe each and every one of us, we're like, you know, just like everyone's got different fingerprint, that there's no one else like you, no one like you. And you've been put on this earth to find your gift and then use your gift to serve the world. But most people never find their gift. Most people leave this earth never tapping into what they were really here for. And I believe that, you know, when you go down there and, you know, 6 foot under, you won't just be asked, you know, who was your Allah and, you know, how many gods did you have and how many prophets. You'll be asked, you know, why didn't you live the purpose? And you'll kind of see 2 movies. One was a life you had, one was a life you could have had. And, you know, the journey is how close can you get both of those movies to be? That, you know, what will you be? Imagine Allah was goal setting for you. What would his goals for you be like?
Yeah.
They'd be much bigger than anything you'd set, right? So how do you begin to live that life? How do you really begin to live that life? Because no one's coming back, right? No one, you're here once and you've got to make it count. And so for me, there was this massive journey about, I was in a profession, I was a dentist for about 15 years. First 7 years I loved it, last other 7 years I hated it. And it became a very, very painful place. I was very good at what I did. I had my clinics, you know, I had everything I wanted to. You know, money was good in there as well, obviously. But it got to that place where I wasn't happy.
The fulfillment wasn't
Not
there.
at all. And so then you go on this journey where you got to find yourself. And a lot of events happen in the end, this is where I am now. But yeah, 100% that you've got to really find that place within yourself.
But I do find that when people are trying to find themselves and they are going through self-development, in a way, it's a very enclosed world, and people around them, because they're not growing or they don't have the understanding, that it can cause relationship issues. So how would be the most healthiest way forward to go in that self-discovery where your family are included, even if they're not on the same level or par on you? Because I know with couples especially, one's got this growth mindset, the other one hasn't, and that's what causes the disruption in a relationship, for example, and then they actually break up because of that. So I'm trying to like fix the gap and sort of try and like, you know, say that, okay, even if there are differences and the spark's not there, let's create a new one and let's try and balance it out. But most of the time it's gone too far down the road, you know, the resentment's too much, or they've just really given up on each other.
Absolutely great question. So I put out a video on Insta and on Facebook a couple of days ago.
I need to check out your videos.
It was one about fear. That, you know, the biggest fear in life we have is failure. And the second biggest fear we have is actually not being loved. Okay, the 2 biggest fears we have. The third one is public speaking. Fourth is death. Right. So we actually are more scared of speaking in public than we are of death.
I'm quite fearless right now then, listening to you.
100%. Okay, that's great. So, you know, when you go on this journey to be able to become more, do more, get out of your comfort zone, the biggest thing you're going to hit is your first biggest fear, right, which is failure. And once you go beyond that, then the second biggest fear you'll hit is, what if I fail, but the people around me won't love me anymore? Maybe because I lose my money, whatever happens. So you never grow, right? But when you do start growing, it's a very lonely road because people around you won't see you for who you are anymore. And people go, you changed. When I met you, you were different. You know, like you were different 5 years ago. And like, yeah, but I'm 5 years old now, I'm different. And a lot of the people around you won't be around you anymore. And that's a tough journey. And so whenever you go on this journey, my biggest thing is to make sure that you take your spouse along with you. Get them.
How?
You have that conversation early on. Okay, so for me,
that's
exactly same thing.
That's quite difficult, because
right?
I have a lot of couples coaching,
Right.
you know, that I do, and one is not as keen as the other, even if they come together to start off with.
Okay.
So, and to be honest, to be fair, it's quite even. It's not necessarily, most people think, oh, it's the women. It might start off even like that, but now I'm getting more male coming to me saying that they want to fix their marriages, and the woman's not actually the one that wants to continue because they think they're all okay and you need to fix up, or vice versa. So I do get both. So it's really difficult. I know what you're saying is true, and I obviously work in that way, but I want to give some practical tips
Also,
how to do that.
Let me just jump in. It's 2 different things. Number one, okay, don't force it down their throat. Okay, you do that, you're going to lose it. So what you need to do is have that conversation, that this is where I'm going, and maybe you don't believe in me, but I just need your support. Because at that point, maybe you don't even believe in yourself. How can you expect someone else to believe in you, right? Have that conversation early on. Have that conversation early on that I just need your support. And this is why I'm doing this. And then, you know, do as I do, don't do as I say. So let them see how you're doing, let them see how you're growing. Naturally, like anything, like kids as well, right? That you can't force them to do something, but when they see you doing it, okay, then they'll join on as well. You know, you want your kids to pray namaz, you pray namaz on time, right? And they'll start praying namaz on time. You want your kids to fast, you fast. Don't tell them to fast if you don't fast. Don't tell them to pray on time if you don't pray, right? And slowly they'll join on. So that's my thing. Number one, don't force it down. Number two, have that conversation early on. That I think a lot of problems within not just our community, but just generally within relationships, there's a lack of communication.
Yeah, people don't know how to communicate. The egos are there, and especially when it comes to adults, because adults are meant to be, obviously, I think even between each other, they feel like as if they've had it all, they've learnt it all. Why is there need for growth? Why is there need for change? And if one's doing it, it just makes the other one uncomfortable, and they want to keep them back to where it was safe and comfortable, and what they're familiar with. And that's the real issue.
Yeah, but, you know, if you stay the way you are, you will die slowly.
Oh yeah,
okay?
because humans are adaptive and they will get bored.
Yeah. I'm not just bored, but you know, most people out there are unhappy and whatever, it's just because they're not growing. And if you can put a spark in them, if you can show them what life can really be like, if they can dig into their passion, another big topic, right? How do you find what you love to do, right? It's massive, but when you do, things change. But especially when you're in a relationship and all of a sudden it changes, yeah, you need to have that conversation. Number one, why are you doing this? Number two, I need your support. But also number three, don't shove it down their throat. Let them see that you're becoming a better person. And if someone sees you becoming a better person, it's like, you know, if I'm a better person at home, then naturally it's a good thing, right? If I'm a worse person at home, then obviously it's not doing anyone any good. So I think those conversations you need to have them early on, but also lead by example.
Okay, now what you're saying, and I'm going to come back to you on this, Syed, we deal with these cases as well. And what has been said is brilliant, but it takes two mindsets to even want it and make it happen. And you know, when you're actually faced with couples, like there's a lot of argument, there's a lot of resentment, there's even sometimes dislike between the couples when they've come to a stage. So how do you get to that point to make them have an understanding for them to move forward? Or even like, you know, siblings, or even if it's like work colleagues, whichever relationship. I mean, we're saying, you know, obviously the majority of it is couples. But it's for any relationship, and you deal with this in the office, and you know that when two people are coming to you, it's mainly that one is different to the other. Now, can religion alone, okay, make people understand that they have to just abide, or if they're doing it with religion alone, is that enough for them to go forward?
Let me give you an example. I mean, I met a couple in
Yeah, you've got loads of examples.
Italy, and they got married. The lady was Italian, and she obviously embraced Islam and converted and became Muslim. And the brother was from Middle East. So they started their life together. First, they fell in love.
Yeah.
And then they started. Then immediately there was difference as soon as they had a child.
Yeah.
So there was a different upbringing, different. They started to argue, disagreement, and so the solution was they both sat together and decided, look, I'm not going to be able to make you an Arab, and you are not going to make me an Italian. So let's sit down and discuss what and how should we solve our problems. What should we do? So they came to conclusion that they should not break the Islamic barriers and limits. And if there is a cultural barrier, they can discuss and maybe break it.
Yeah.
So this is how they managed to. I met them at least 10 years after this agreement, and they were happy together.
Let me bring in one thing. Do you know, like what you said? My thing is that, what if we went into relationships knowing that we're not there to change the other person, we're there to accept, right? Then everything changes.
Yeah,
because the reason problems happen is we're always trying to change that person to be more like us, right? But what if we understood that Islam's about acceptance, not about change, right? Change comes from within, not to change someone else. It's hard enough to change yourself, right? How can you expect to change, how can you expect to change someone else? It's not going to happen. And when all we want to do is try and change that person, things become very rough. And what if, like, we understood that really what religion's about is, what if, like, your purpose every day was to actually make your spouse the happiest person on this earth, that you could light them up like a Christmas tree every single day? What if that's what your purpose was?
Are we brought up in like that way though? Or most of the time it's more like the woman has to serve the man, or the other way around in regards to finance? Let's be real. In our homes, even when it comes to our children, we are told, we are guiding them, we're directing them in a specific way which looks good to the outside world. So it's really difficult in order to have this. Sorry, we have a call, so I've got to mention it is a live show for everyone to call in. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I was listening to your program, and
Okay.
I give salam to your guests. Mahmood and the Maulana. The thing is, life is not a bed of roses.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult, especially in today's the circumstances that we live in. देखो सब तो वड्डी जेडी चीज हुंदी है ना इंसान नू.
Sorry, I don't understand. You have to translate for me.
Can you listen? Listen? Are you listening to me?
Yes, I am. I just don't understand. You have to translate for me.
You can't speak Urdu?
No, I
or
don't.
Punjabi?
No.
Oh, you don't? Oh, well.
Sorry.
Look, my dear sister, one of the things is, right, we, all of us, as we disintegrate, our life is based on Islam. What is the meaning of Islam? It's following the 5 pillars of Islam.
Submitting to the will of God.
Faith, saying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, making zakat, praying to God. All these things everybody has the knowledge of. I'm an international human rights lawyer. I've lived in this country since 1956. Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
We are listening.
There's a lot of things that we see which people who try to be very, very clever, but knowledge, our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, seek knowledge. It's obligatory on every Muslim to seek knowledge. Are you listening to me, doctor?
Yes.
Especially you.
What have you doctorated in?
Well, I'm a dental surgeon, so I'm a dentist.
Oh, you're a dental surgeon. All right, that's very good. You know how hard you have to work to become a dental surgeon? Very hard. I have a nephew. He lives near you, and he's a consultant at Dartford.
Right.
Look, I think that faith and personal development, it's not something that comes overnight. It takes a lot of time.
Definitely.
And I hope that, I don't think anybody's, if you're interested, then, keep working at it. It takes a lot of time. Or inshallah, in the next, teach your children to follow the path. And that is the best way. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Salaam
Inshallah.
alaikum.
Thank you.
Very much.
So,
Do you want to respond to that? I mean, it was a comment more than anything.
the comment was being that it's a journey, right?
It's a journey. It takes long, and the right path, like everyone says, like I said, it's all about Islam. But it's not about that,
but
really.
you know this thing where it takes long? Who said it takes long? Who said it takes long? Someone said
Yeah.
it takes long, so now I believe it takes long. But
Exactly. Limiting beliefs.
It takes one moment
Yeah.
to change your life.
Yeah.
One moment. That moment where you say, "I'm not going to live this life anymore." It takes that one moment.
It takes
right?
an instant.
So I don't agree that it takes long. I agree that it takes one day where you said, things are going to be different from now. I'm not prepared
Yeah.
to have that thing. But before this conversation, just so we can
well-
wrap this up, where we're talking about relationships, my point is that what if we could actually, what if every day, we knew that what we want to do, what we need to do, what we should do is we should light up our spouse every single day, right? I know this is not for marriage, but this came up. But then what it means is that no matter what road you're going down, self-improvement or whatever, then your focus of that will be how to make the people around you the happiest, right? So then
Do you
everyone
not
wins.
think that's more of a Western way of thinking? Because in our cultures, we don't think like that in the majority of the time.
Then the Western way is a good way to think.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's why there's a
It's an
difficulty.
Islamic- it's an Islamic
but
way
it
of
is
thinking.
Islamic. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm
It is.
highlighting personal development, because people always think faith is just everything, and it is everything. But when you take out bits of faith, you will see the personal development, and it is modern day psychology, to be honest. It's just that it's in Islam, it's written, it's never been interpreted in that
Our
way.
whole religion is about about personal development.
Exactly.
So, for example, look, there's this big thing at the moment in Forbes and Inc. about, gratitude, morning gratitude.
Yes, it's
What's that
already
about?
in there.
Yeah, but what is that about? We wake up for Fajr, that 5 a.m. club, 1 hour before Fajr, that's what it's all about. And then what is namaz about? It's not about asking, it's about thanking. That's what namaz is actually about, right?
Yes.
That we should start our morning with gratitude. That's what we're told to do. But when it's out there in Forbes and Inc., everyone's like, yeah, gratitude. But the truth is, we've been given it from the beginning, right?
Exactly.
But we use prayer as a means to ask, not as a means to thank, right? So I have this, that, everything which you want, you've already got, because Allah never says no. He only gives one of 3 answers, right? Yes, not now, or I've got something better in store for you. 3 answers, right? So if you actually do believe that, which is what we're told, then what it means is that nothing will ever be withheld from you. So what that means is, what if we actually thanked Allah for what we've got even before we got it? Then wouldn't our prayers be worth a lot more?
And today, in today's world, that's called manifestation, that's called affirmations, and also being mindful, that's called even mindfulness and meditation, all of that, that's what I'm trying to say. But a lot of us think that because if we bring in these terminologies, it takes away from our faith, but actually, it is actually our faith.
It's all about faith.
And the thing is, we're not reading it correctly, and we're thinking that the times and the stories of our Prophet ﷺ, peace be upon him, and his family is sort of limiting, but it's not. It's actually so open, and the way you and I, for example, I realize we think in the same lines, because this is how our Muslims need to move forward with the times. It's not actually going into a Western society. It's actually being more religious. It's actually enhancing your practices because you understand how to interpret it from a psychological point of view.
Yeah, see, because religion, bottom line, isn't about fasting, praying. It's about
No,
being the
it's
best
much
person.
more.
It's one thing, right? Being the best person you can to the people around you, that's it. And if you understand why you're here, like, what is the purpose of you being here? Why are you here? Like, as I said, you're not just here just
To do the
raise a
rituals.
family and then to die. You're here for a hell of a lot more than that. You're here, like, like, as I said, when you die, what if you see this whole thing that you could have done, and you're told, why didn't you do it? And you go, well, because if I did it and this person laughed at me, and like, there's this great quote by Cooley, right? You've probably heard it, right? He goes, I am not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I'm what I think you think I am.
Yes,
right.
very
and what
powerful.
that is, that we live our lives not based upon what people think about us, but what we think people think about us. And everything which we do because we're thinking about what someone will think about us. And everything we don't do is because we're worried about someone's opinion of us.
Yeah,
and
how society views us.
Yeah, and the biggest regret in life is that I wish I'd lived a life on my terms, a life true to me, a life not governed by the expectation of others. Biggest regret in life is I wish I'd led a life on my terms, right?
Well, I think a lot of that also is really forced upon children nowadays. They're supposed to live a life that their parents view as the best way, and that's why they go into careers, they're going into relationships, and they're entering into adulthood very unfulfilled, because they're not allowed, because apparently it's meant to be where, religion states that, they dictate, but it's not like that at all in our religion.
But also it's a tough one, right? What if if you tell your kid, go do what you love, right? Like, okay,
no, there are boundaries, there are restrictions, but I'm talking about when they are directed in ways to actually say, well, you've got to go into the medical field, for example, you have to do certain things, you have to marry into this caste, for example, there has to be this sort of like...
Doctor, dentist, accountant, or failure, right?
Exactly, so you followed that route, and look how it turned out.
No, for me it turned out, so actually,
I've got another call, I think we're really hyping up this conversation. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam. Welcome to the show.
Jazakallah khair. I was just listening to the brother talking to yourself, sister, mashallah. It shows something I was thinking of myself as well.
Hello?
So basically, nowadays we're living in generation individualism.
Yes.
And even with faith now, it seems to be everybody thinking, oh, it's an individual thing between the person and their faith. For me, that's completely wrong. That's where we've lost the plot, to be honest. Faith, for me, is about being somebody, an individual, but also doing something as a collective. If you are not making an impact as an individual, collectively, in the society you're around, for example, if you're not making an impact with your family, if you're not making an impact with your elders, your parents, your uncles, your aunts, your brothers, your sisters, your nephews, your nieces, that individual faith isn't doing anything.
Yeah, 100%. It's about impacting other people's lives. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got to have that ripple effect, which is what we're seeing at the moment. Everybody.
But it starts with you.
Yeah, it does, but then it doesn't. It starts with you, but it doesn't finish with you.
Brother, do you know...
That's the
what's your-
journey. That's
what's
the
my-
journey. You've got to look at you, and then you've got to look at what you're doing. Because obviously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us He's made us all different for a reason. And the reason we're different is because the way we interact with each other isn't going to be the same. I can learn from you, sister. Your experience, your knowledge is unique to you. Nobody has that experience in this world except you.
Yeah.
And when I talk to you and listen to you, I'm going to learn from you, sister. Similar with the brother, similar from the Mawlana Sahib.
Likewise with
This is
yourself,
everything.
to be honest.
Yeah. We all need to think about coming around the table. It's not an individual thing, Faith.
Yeah.
You know, individual thing, you know, is going to be when we're going to be in the grave.
Yeah.
But while we're on this world, we have to be serving each other. We have to be out there serving humanity. And that's where I think the message has got lost. You know, throughout the generation, that's what faith was there. These schools that we see, these institutions, these hospitals, these organisations, they were all founded by faith communities.
Yeah, no, I understand and I take your point. Thank you very much for your call. Was there anything else that you'd like to say?
Just Jazakallah khair, and just keep doing the shows. I think I've missed you for a few weeks and we didn't see you on the air, so mashallah, please keep
You can
doing
catch
the
up on
shows.
YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. Okay, thank you very much for
Okay.
calling in. I appreciate that. Assalamu
Thank you.
alaikum. No, that's very true, because most people think that when you do self-development, it's all about the self, but actually it does impact everybody else.
100%. Just one thing before I've got a point on that. Just before the call came in, like I did dentistry because I wanted to. Like my dad actually told me not to. Right? So
No,
he
I'm just
said-
saying
no,
generally.
yeah, I know. No, but what I'm saying is, but there came a point where I realized that I was so unhappy and I had to find another way out, right? And over here, yeah, I agree it's about everyone, but you know, we can only work as a team when we've worked on ourselves, right? You can only give when you have, right? You can only give when you've got yourself. So I totally get that it's about working as a team, but the only way a team can integrate well is when each and every person in that
the
team,
same.
has actually got that as well. So sometimes we rely on other people more than we should because we should have it ourselves first. So my thing is this journey of self-development. It's, you know, it's huge. Find yourself.
It is so
Yeah.
huge. And Syed, I mean, you can even tell, like, in Islam as well, when we are practicing our religion, most of the time we're doing it as robotic form and like machines. And that's why we're like, well, why isn't our prayer being answered? And why are we not getting the results that we get, even though we pray 5 times, we give charity, we go to majalis, we go to the ziyarah and things like that. So there is much more deeper meaning and understanding. Do you think this is like, you know, being, even in our mosques, you know, in the centers that we're teaching our children, you know, it's just ritual. I go in there personally in one of my local Arabic schools, and I give lectures on a regular basis in the assembly in the school, and I give them that meaning and purpose as to why they're there. I don't know if anybody else is doing that, and if they are, you know, well done, but it's not just about praying and reading and just reciting and learning, you know, the rituals. It's got to be more. Do you think that we need to change our curriculums a little bit as well?
Well, I mean, the reason is that we are not following the Islamic teaching. Islamic teachings
It's wide.
Islamic teachings does not say that only prayer is Islam. Your lifestyle is prayers.
Yes. In
The way
between.
you live, if you live your life according to Islamic teachings, you are continuously doing prayers. If you are doing business
so
according to Islam, you are doing prayers. If you are even having relationship with your partner according to Islam, that is also prayers.
yeah.
Looking after your family and children is prayers. So we have to look at it from this point of view. Unfortunately, what happens is the parents insist and force the children to only pray, and then they separate other life, and they copy them because they see their own parents. I used to go to a madrasa. The mother used to bring the daughter to the madrasa and used to force her hijab, and she was not wearing hijab herself. And when she would enter the madrasa, she would force the child to say Bismillah before she steps in madrasa. So she was not setting a good example, because if hijab is necessary, then why she is not herself wearing it? So, and also elders, I mean, what Quran and Islamic teachings say, that qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara, that you have to start from yourself, and then don't forget your family members and others around you. And you have to gradually widen the circle.
No, absolutely. I think
It's not excluding anyone else.
You know, so when it comes to religion, there's sometimes that, you need to go outside of where you are to be able to get the answer you're looking for. So I remember, like I was in the US a little while ago, and then someone came up to me and they said, Mahmood, everyone gives me a hard time because, when I pray, I don't get much out of it. I'm like, okay. He goes, but everyone's saying like when I pray, I should like really connect, and I don't connect. I go, well, but at least you pray.
Yeah.
Like, at least you pray.
Yeah.
At least you pray. He goes, yeah, but everyone says I should like pray to level 10. He goes, I'm at level 2. I go, well, you're at level 2. Just give yourself credit.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to go. So like there's this story where Modi, the president of India, okay, he came to the US and Zuckerberg invited him to the office, the office of Facebook, and then they had this conversation. And Zuckerberg tells him this story that Zuckerberg goes in 2009. When Facebook was doing really badly, Zuckerberg went to his mentor. His mentor was Jobs, right? Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
So he went to Steve Jobs at the time, and he said, Steve Jobs, look, Facebook isn't doing well. What do I do? And Jobs, being Jobs, could have said anything. He said, go get funding, go to VCs, do whatever. But Jobs said something. Jobs said to Zuckerberg, he said, go to India, go find an ashram, sit in an ashram for 2 weeks and meditate, and you'll find your answer.
amazing.
Zuckerberg did that, and that's why Facebook is where it is right now. And when I said this story, this guy said to me that, what if I want to go to an ashram? I said, well, maybe you will find your answer to prayer there. You may not find it in the mosque. You may not, you've got to sometimes go and do something else.
Exactly.
If you want to become a different person, you've got to go and do different things. And that's my point, that sometimes because we're in the same environment all the time, the same friends, the same circle, it's hard to grow. You can't grow.
Absolutely.
You need to get out of there. You need to explore new things. You need to go to new places, try new things. A lot of what the Islam I've learned is from non-Muslims, right? Some of the biggest bits of Islam I've learned are from non-Muslims. People like Tony Robbins. People like Robbins. I spend a lot of time with Tony Robbins. I'm attached to him a lot. Do a lot of work with him.
Yeah.
I train some of his teams, and I'm like, for me, that environment is amazing. The amount of Islam I learned through him is phenomenal. Why? Because it's one thing. It's about being the best person you can, and that's what life's about.
But you know what? We have this mindset as well. We're so scared to be outside our communities. We're so scared to learn from somebody outside because we think that we're going to be, taking away our religion, our religious factor.
I don't know if that's true. I just don't think that we've had enough exposure to enough on the outside. To
Come
be
on,
able
we're
to see
living
how
in the Western world, and when I speak to families, they're so scared for their kids to even mix with people that are outside. They'll make sure they stay in certain places and do certain things and mix with certain things.
Parents are insecure themselves.
Of course, that's what I'm trying to say.
And insecurity breeds insecurity.
Yeah.
So it comes down to the parents developing themselves enough so they can bring up kids in that environment. Okay, so it's down to the parents. But the reason that kids are insecure is because parents are insecure. But also, it's another thing. So when I was in Canada recently, and we had a whole series on Find Your Passion, right? So, and my thing was that I think it was UCLA. They did a study, and what it was is that most people say that if I work late nights or if I work late, it's gonna disrupt the kids. Studies show that if you work late nights, it doesn't affect your kids at all. But if you do something you don't like, but your kids are 63% likely to be bullies, not bullied. 63% likely to be bullied. Okay, they'll be bullies if you go and do something you don't like. Why? Because that insecurity breeds on them. And what are bullies about? Bullies are people who are insecure. That's what bully other people, right? And so for those things are massive. And so we had this big thing where people started saying, I'm going to get out of what I don't like to do. And how do I find my passion? How do I go and do this? How do I start my business? I like baking cakes. How do I start up a cake company? I like doing this. And it was just phenomenal that people actually realized that there's a lot more to this. It's not about praying. It's not about fasting. It's about being the best version of yourself. And for me, I've learned more about Islam in the last few years when I found what I love to do, through serving others than I've ever have done.
That's really powerful what you said, because I know a lot of people, they sort of start off loving their religion, but it's not serving them, because like you said, they're not doing what they're passionate about, because they're making it like as if religion's holding them back and restricted, but it's not. It's really not. It's just the way you're looking at it. That's why you all need to be coaches or get a coach. To be honest, it becomes a different mindset. When I studied and trained, it was alongside people that were, doesn't have to be, consultants or barristers or even single moms or whatever it may be. It's even read a book. You don't have to do the course. Just read a book. Just read about about the self-development.
YouTube, one of the biggest gifts Allah's given us is YouTube, right?
Exactly. Read about it, learn about it, watch these things, because the tips that you get from coaching and understand how you have to behave, listen even. A lot of the time we talk about communication, but then how you respond, because a lot of people are trying to, sort of respond with, listening with response instead of listening with understanding, for example. Things like that. These tips, I was guilty of that myself. Whenever anyone talked to me, all I was thinking about is how I'm going to answer back. How I'm going to answer back. And I was not concentrating. But being a coach, I didn't care about what questions, my clients were going to ask me if I was going to put into a last minute situation that I didn't know, because I'm sitting with them, I'm listening to them, and you understand the linguistic, you understand everything, you are literally in that space with them, and it's really powerful for relationships in your business and your personal life. So, I mean, the thing is, we do model each other a lot, and that's the issue. And I think parents need to step up, definitely. And I think it doesn't mean that if you're religious that you can't mix and mingle with different people, because like, I remember you telling me a story as to, who's the influencer and who is the one being influenced. You have to build yourself into a character that it doesn't matter what you're faced, even though if we are going to be influenced, but we need to be characters that we're going to be the influencers, especially in these sort of environments. We want to come here and we want to be doing certain things in this country that's a Western world. You don't have to tell them. You have to be that way. They automatically will choose your way if you are performing in a particular way. That's what it's about. It's like, I can't come into your house and tell you how to organize your furniture, but if you come into mine and you saw it arranged in a particular way that you liked, then you'll copy it.
Do as I do, right? Not do as I say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Islam says, that look at what is being said to you. Don't look at who is saying it.
Well, we're going to come on to that topic very soon, actually, because with judgment, because a lot of people do judge. Look at how I'm looking, and look at how you are looking, and regardless, disregarding what is someone saying and what's the meaning and purpose, because we're all on our own journey. We all can aspire to be better, but then when you come up in a platform, people only want to pick on that, the shortcomings that someone has.
Because it's easy to do that.
Of course. But then what does that say about that person as well? And if they were even doing the same thing that I'm doing or you're doing, for example, and in this platform speaking, then they would also be criticized for something else. It's very easy to sit behind the screen and just speak like they do on Facebook, like they do on WhatsApp groups. But let's do it while we're sitting face to face. And most people I invite don't come on my show.
Okay.
For that reason.
But that's what I said about before, right? That if you want to grow, you're going to have your biggest fears, right? So what you can do, number one, is you can either you can grow, but it's scary and whatever, or you can either have a really big problem, a problem which is so big that you never need to grow. But then the other thing is that when you see someone else grow, there's two things you can do, right? You can either grow to match them, because that's what we want to do, or you can tear them down. It's easier. Like if you want to build the biggest building in town, how do you do it? Two ways. You either build the biggest building in town, or you tear everyone else's building down, right? What's easier to do? It's easier to tear everyone else's building down. And that's why a lot of the stuff we see, behind closed doors, WhatsApps, whatever. Why? Because, people don't like seeing other people growing, because it makes them feel insecure that I should be growing as well. So either you grow, but that's scary, that's tough.
There's a psychology behind it.
Or you tear someone else down. What if we got out of that? What if we got out of that?
How do we get out of it? It's like, even if you're saying you grow. These people sometimes are set in their ways. I know I'm faced with it all the time. The criticisms, the judgments, all of that. Luckily, they come to me with my strong mindset. But unfortunately, the reason why I'm raising these topics is because they are actually saying these kind of things to people that have maybe some vulnerable, circumstances in their lives. And it can turn really detrimental to that person. I know people that have turned away from the religion because they've been criticized and judged. That's how bad it is. People don't realize that, no, we're telling you what's right in Islam. Really? The message and the delivery is totally different. But still, it carries on in that way.
But also, you can't help everyone, right? Not everyone is at that place.
No, everyone has the help, but...
Everyone is not at that place.
Absolutely not. But
and some people are going to do that, and that's cool. And so, you work with the people who want to change, and you leave the people who won't. And you hope that the people who won't will see the people who do, and slowly they'll change as well. Because if we always go after the people who aren't, then you know what, you're just going to waste your time.
Ignore it.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Not everyone's going to buy your product. Not everyone wants you. That's cool.
Keep going, keep moving.
Yeah, spend that energy on the 10 people who
so
want you. So before we end,
because it's gone so quickly, and I could talk for another hour with you, to be honest. It's been amazing. If there was a takeaway, because I honestly would revisit this again, and inshallah, when you're back again from the States, we will do maybe another show on this and something similar. But if there was a takeaway of people that want to combine their faith and include self-development, what would be your take-home message?
My take-home would be simple. Ask yourself right now, are you happy? Okay.
What you're tolerating.
Are you happy? Okay. And if you're not, look at where you want to be, and whatever it takes, get there. okay, whatever it takes to get there, because there'll come a time in your life when it's going to be too late, and then those regrets happen. And you know what? Then, and when you're maybe 70, 80, probably be too late. Right now, you can change it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like even, you know, when we were younger, we thought 40 was old. I'm 40 now. 40 is young, right? I've got the whole life to live again.
Oh yeah, it's
right?
the new
I've got
30s.
the whole, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's probably even younger than that.
Absolutely.
Right? So, you know, it is possible for you to do whatever you really want to do, and that's it. Just go out and do it. No limits. Allah hasn't put any, you know, any lid on you.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fair. That's
Definitely.
it. Just go out and do it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Syed, any last takeaways for this show?
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says that Allah does not change people, people have to change.
Absolutely. No, that's really
So,
powerful.
We have
Definitely.
to change first, then Allah will help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brother Mahmood and Syed Razavi. Again, we had a very insightful discussion, conversation, and I'm really, really glad that we had a lot of calls as well, which is great to hear, because of course this is a show that is a learning for everybody, especially the audience. And inshallah, we will be back with a new topic, new guest, and more insights and awareness. And we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.